Welcome. We are the Ministry of the Real Truth, and we strive continuously to bring you the real truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, without the hype, fluff, puff, or other silly nonsense. We have put in place a business policy where honesty is our best policy, so we also strive to live by that. We, over the years, have come across many near-death experience, supposed death and journeys into the afterlife videos on social media, and today we have stumbled upon a few more. This one in particular, woman saw the truth about religion and their near-death experiences. What they learned will shock you. Okay, so let's find out if it will, or if it does. We are doing this as a review, so there was no copyright breach intended. There shouldn't be any copyright claims or SME or anything like that. The music playing in the background of that particular video is on YouTube. It's not a intended copyright breach, etc, etc. So hopefully all's good. We have watched many of these videos. It's NDE death journeys into the afterlife videos like this one, and we've watched them intensively, thoroughly, analysing them, and have come to the following conclusions, realizations, etc. to follow. We have tried to find the background information on the woman detailed in these videos, and within these videos, and detailing their NDE or near-death experiences, that they died, etc., and journeyed into the afterlife and what they saw. And we also strived to come up with the data, background data on these particular women, i.e. Nancy L. Danison, who wrote the book Backward Beliefs, etc., and also Amy Call. We suggest that you note exactly what they say, get a pen and paper, write it down, throughout the videos, okay? Because there's these little details, it's all in the wording we found, right? To pick it up, you have to really be listening to what they say. Again, it's all in the wording, the words they use. Nancy L. Danison states she had a near-death experience, but she died. Okay. So, was she affirmed as clinically dead by real doctors? Was it on death certificate, whatever? Was she affirmed, confirmed, clinically dead at the time? No, because the radiologist, etc., went to do a mammogram or something and left her, and she died, right? Supposedly, or had this experience. And we also ask, is there a difference between NDE and dying? Being certified clinically dead or deceased, or straight out dead? Yes, there is, and we provide the information through different websites. Amy Call, 100% Mormon, ex-Mormon, and so forth. Okay, so have a little look at this video.
This is your host, Dorothy Shelton. In today's video, you're going to listen to the fascinating conversation that Nancy Danison and Amy Call had with their guides on the other side during their near-death experience.
Okay, so this is where you really got to listen. They said their guides. They didn't say Jesus, God, angels, etc., right? And it's a near-death experience, but they actually died. See, that's why you've got to be really listening intently.
They wanted to know, as we all do, what is the true religion? The answer
It didn't really receive this answer like it's Judaism, it's Christianity, it's Islam, or it's Hinduism or Buddhism or whatever, right? Okay, they never actually got that. So got this different perspective, right? Yeah. So we recall that in the scriptures, Christ, or Jesus the Messiah, said to his disciples, or the people around him and his disciples, the true religion is taking care of the widowed and the orphaned, right? And it's all involving charity, hope, and love. Love is the greatest of all of them, right? These three things, right? According to scripture, you can look it up, Google it, whatever, look in your Bible if you're familiar with that verse. Okay.
See, it is very eye-opening and funny and so loving. You will be surprised yourself. So I hope this ties in with the other information that I provide on this channel about religion, the devil, hellfire, and all of these beliefs that we've been fed to believe for centuries, which disempower us. We are finally becoming spiritually mature. And so the question is not, what is the true religion? The question is, are we closer to oneness, or are we still looking for separation?
Now, from my background that I come from is a lot of black and white. This is this, that's that, this is what's good, this is what's evil, this is right, this is wrong. This is the correct political way, this is the correct religion, this is not. It came to me as I saw another person who I felt this mentor quality to, I can ask, and so I went.
So, what she's saying in regards to her background, where she was coming from, right? We found that information on Amy Cole. Yeah? A woman who left the cult after NDE. What cult was that? The Latter-day Saints, the Mormon Church. And there's been some comments here by different people. And this one here in particular states that they've been researching NDEs for many years. This is one of their favourite videos, I guess. On it, this woman, Amy Cole, was 100% Mormon until her NDE. It's an impressive story and very damning for any believer who may come upon it. Her NDE is long, detailed, and she's delivered it consistently on multiple occasions, years apart. No mention of anything Mormon or LDS, Latter-day Saints, Joseph Smith orientated, right? During her entire experience, she comes across as very sincere every time she does present it. Hypnosis, woman with bipolar, blah blah blah. She meets an old wise kind man. There's no mention of Christ. She refers to guides, okay? Oneness with the universe, and she's given all these metaphors, all this sort of stuff, right? These things that she sees and experiences, all that sort of stuff. And it's explained to her. And again, she quotes her guide, takes her to many places on earth. Yeah? And she was then told, given a warning that the food on earth is impure, and we should return to its pure state. She changed her diet dramatically after her NDE. She was then told it was time to go back to her life, etc., etc. And then looks like she got this photo, or someone came with a photo. She was compelled to go to church, and she finds a woman she doesn't know crying in the foyer. She gives the woman a hug, and the woman says her daughter just died in LA. Amy asks the woman to come over the next day and bring a photo. The next day, when the woman arrives to the photo, Amy realises it's the same girl who approached her during her NDE and told her about her death. The photo is black and white, but Amy describes the girl's hair colour and eye colour perfectly. She then tells the mother everything the girl had told her. The mother and daughter had been estranged. What's that, like they had some sort of difference or something, or separated or something like that. Amy's life stays very strange for weeks, as though she is halfway between worlds. The cable guys look like little kids in coveralls, carrying tools. She couldn't talk to them with a straight face. She sees God in everything. She realises there is no reason to take life so seriously. She basically describes what it's like to be on shrooms. And there's her religious transition in a couple of points. Okay, on YouTube. She describes religion as being closed at, too small and uncomfortable. Her experience rewired her mind and heart, and she no longer fits the mould. Having experienced the Creator directly, up here she stated, she's talking about guides, telling her stuff, right? She meets a guide. Her experience rewired her mind and heart, and she no longer fits the mold. Having experienced the Creator, or God, directly, the idea of belief in God seems as silly as to her as believing in sandwiches. Love is the only thing that matters to her now. Okay, and there's plenty more here. And they state something about a guy called George Ritchie's account, Guidepost magazine, in the summer of 1963. Since then, they would read anything they could get their hands on at that time. About that time, Raymond Moody's book came out, Life After Life. His mother, or her mother, was somewhat upset about it, stating that she was concerned that this child or daughter or son was reading this nonsense. That person then told her it was interesting and considered it science fiction. She went away. Nancy Danison wrote several books on her NDE experience. For this person, these NDE stories eventually broke their Mormon testimony. They realised this love everyone comes back with is vacuous in the Mormon hierarchy. They claim to know God but never talk about this love experience. When Joseph Smith had his first vision, it was from a condescending God. Apparently he was given the vision through Moroni, okay, this angel or messenger, not directly from God, okay, who commanded and dictated his will. It's the same as Muhammad. Okay, he got it through the angel Gabriel, not God. NDErs, or experiences, come back with the overwhelming feeling of being loved, accepted, and understanding that they are not judged. Okay. And someone asks, how do we explain those with absolutely terrifying experiences? We don't. Literally, the only thing we know with certainty is people die. Well, that's a fact, right? Then they come back with fresh memories. Sometimes these memories can be verified by surrounding family and stuff, etc., etc. NDE is near-death experience, right? So you've got to define it, okay? Find the difference between the near-death experience, okay? Having a near-death experience, actually dying, being dead, no longer functioning, everything's shut down, and then affirmed or is confirmed by the doctor, etc., etc., or those trying to resuscitate you, that you're clinically dead. Okay. What is this? Okay, some more information there. And it goes on about something else. Okay, so we found something on Nancy Danison. NDE. She holds a BS in biology, that's a Bachelor of Science, not the other BS, with a concentration in anatomy and physiology, a BA in psychology, and a PhD in jurisprudence. Until 1994, she was living the life of a successful trial lawyer in a large Midwestern law firm. She often lectured on a national level and wrote on legal topics for the healthcare industry, etc., etc. Then she had a near-death experience. She started a local chapter of the International Association for Near-Death Studies, Incorporated, earning a pilot's license, and etc., etc., etc. And then here's websites, and her websites of background information. Websites, background information, continued, books, videos. Okay. We'd like you, Christians, especially, to take note of what is this in the background. A statue of Buddha. Okay. That's what it looks like to us. What are these? Probably some sort of just decoration or incense burning thing, whatever. Smellies. Yeah, okay, so you need to be aware of what these people are clinging to. It's nothing personal, it's not a direct attack, it's just what we came to notice in these videos. In the background, see, there's a clearer picture there, it's some sort of Buddhist figure. Okay, they lean heavily on the oneness, unification. Okay, the Christians know about the Roman Catholic or the Vatican in this one world religion concept, that all religions all lead to the one path to the one God. Yeah, they all lead to God, all this sort of stuff. So you've got to be very, very aware, stay alert, be very, very careful, and listen intently to what they say. And then here's her original link, the original link to her website, Ndes. Yeah, and she goes on about her body's death. Okay, she states here earlier that she had a near-death experience, but here she says basically her body died, or she died. Okay, she had some problems. It was painful and emotionally traumatic for her body. She was alone when she died. There you go. She died. So she wasn't having this near-death experience. Near-death. So you got to know the difference between near-death and actually dying or being deceased, right? She was alone when she died because the radiologist and radiology technician both left her to perform other tasks, including getting the 8th set of mammography films developed. Okay. Early stages of the ND were fairly standard. She left her body, etc., etc. When she first entered the light, she saw nothing but light and beings, right? Beings of the light. And she thought, well, I can't be dead. I didn't go through a tunnel and all that sort of stuff, as others say, right? And she meets this young girl, and she realizes she's actually dead. Okay. And so forth. And then there's questions and answers that follow. Yeah. And there's a video on Amy Call's near-death experience.
We're lucky to have her here tonight. Let's give a warm welcome to Amy Call.
As an empathic and sensitive adolescent, Amy Call was hastily diagnosed with bipolar disorder and sent home with a heavy medication, which caused complications and pain, cascading into an increasingly complex cocktail of medications which weakened her body.
Okay, so that's her there, the video about her there. Again, basically it's this video here. Okay. But here's the details here. She used to be 100% Mormon until her NDE, and she got out of that cult, according to this person's writing, details, information, right? Okay. Okay, so here's Nancy Danison's Afterlife Experience video.
Nancy Danison, and today's topic is what happens when we die. I died March 14th, 1994.
Well, she said she had a near-death experience in those articles, but she died. Yeah, so she was officially dead, wasn't she?
I was in university hospitals for what's called an excisional breast biopsy, which meant that they didn't do like a needle puncture or anything. They pretty much assumed it was going to be cancer, so they were just going to cut the whole thing out. They cut a wedge out about like this size. Because I didn't have a lump, the only way that the surgeon would know where to cut was through a procedure, a radiological procedure called a needle localization procedure. So I was in the radiology department for the radiologist to stick a needle into my breast with a wire inside and then pull the needle out and leave the wire for the surgeon to cut around. And then she also, the radiologist drew a little map. You know, here are the 3 lesions, please cut here. All all that positioning of the needle and the wire had to be done with the mammogram. So you ladies know what that's like to be. I had 8.
Okay, and it continues in here. Okay, that we looked at her story here. These are videos, basically the same video. Okay, so you really need to listen intently to their wording. What are they saying, right? Okay, so we're looking at the truth about NDE. What is a near-death experience, NDE? And it explains it here at this website. A near-death experience is a report from a person who appeared to be dead or was close to death about what he or she experienced during the time when vital functions ceased or came very close to being gone. Very close to being gone. Yeah. Near-death experience. So what that means is you're near dying. You're not necessarily dead. You're not clinically dead. Okay. Obviously, the person was not actually dead because they lived to tell about the experience. A person who experiences an NDE will report one or more, almost never all, of the following. And it has it all listed here. Approximately 3% of the US population has reported having a NDE. That's either a very small statistic or portion of the American population, only 3% have it, or only 3% have been approached and given their testimony. What is the history of NDEs? The earliest recorded NDE dates back to the 1740s, published in a book written by a French military physician, Pierre-Jean du Marchal, describing a report from his patient. In 1968, Celia Green published a book, Out of the Body Experiences, providing the details of 400 first-hand accounts of out-of-body experiences. The most well-known recounting of NDEs was the 1975 book by Raymond Moody, Life After Life, reporting the experiences of 100 people. There are now hundreds of books on the subject. Some are compilations of NDE experiences, and some are first-hand accounts. Some are even written by doctors and scientists. For example, the 2012 book, Proof of Heaven, A Neurosurgeon's Journey into the Afterlife by Eben Alexander. It should be noted, however, that while the large majority of these books are most likely written by sincere people, some of these books are frauds. The most well-known fraud is The Boy Who Came Back from Heaven by Alex Malaki. Malaki actually means mischievous, right? Malaki. And that's what they reckon that book, Malaki, in the Bible is about. Mischievous. I'm not really sure on that one. Go do your own personal research on it. But yeah, there's a word called Malaki, or Malaki, which means mischievous. Co-written with his father. It purports to be the account of a 6-year-old boy. Yeah, that's just what we observed with that word there. Okay, it doesn't mean that he's mischievous, right? Or he's named that because he's mischievous. Okay, The Boy Who Came Back from Heaven by Alex Malaki, co-written with his father. It purports to be the account of a 6-year-old boy. The boy recanted his story at age 16, admitting that he made it up to get attention and because his parents egged him on. They were influencing him, write this. Okay, it'll be a big seller or whatever. Okay, they were prompting him to do it, coaching him, all that sort of stuff. Not everyone who has an NDE reports positive experiences. Sometimes the NDE is frightening and horrific. However, it appears that since the negative reports are not what people want to hear, itching ears, right? No one is writing books about them. People want a good story, right? They want to know, oh yeah, I see my family members, whatever, that passed on quite a while back. I'll be with them again, united. That's the kind of thing they say at funerals as well. Oh, they're in a good place. They're up there with all the relations, you know, having a good time, whatever. All that sort of stuff, because it's what people want to hear. They want to go to a funeral and hear he was an absolute a-hole. Geez, thank goodness he's gone, you know. He did this, he did that. You know, it's all a social construct. Like, you got to cry, you got to wear black, you know, all this sort of stuff. You got to say nice things about them, you know, to please the family, friends, whatever, right? All that sort of stuff. Okay? I see people that at funerals that cry and carry on all that sort of stuff, then after they're like, what an ass hat that person was, all that sort of stuff. Or later on. Again, there's more information here. Are NDEs proof of God, heaven, and the existence of the soul? The short answer is absolutely not. NDEs are real, and as much as people have actually experienced these things. The writer can't argue with the experience, but does not take issue with the interpretation of the experience. From all reports, the experience of NDE is very powerful. It is not surprising that people will insist that the events actually happened, as they have remembered them. The writer had a friend who told her once that she had an NDE. When the writer asked her to tell her about it, she refused. She knew the writer was a skeptic who would probably give her the scientific explanation. She said the experience was too important and meaningful to her to allow this writer to take it away from her. An OBE. During an OBE, a person has a feeling of floating above their body. It's pretty similar to a astral travelling experience, lucid dreaming, all that sort of stuff. How does science explain OBE? The writer's giving OBE its own section because it is such a major part of NDE lore. LORE, right? And he explains it all here. Spikes in brain activity. How does medical science explain NDE? As one approaches death, it is not surprising to find that various bodily mechanisms are not working properly. Any of these malfunctions could induce some of the characteristics of an NDE. Hormone release, hormonal disruption, excess carbon dioxide, lack of oxygen, spikes in brain activity, reaction to anesthetics, the drug to put you under. How does psychology explain NDE? Through personality traits, memory tricks, self-fulfilling prophecy. Fear. An NDE can be experienced by a person who is not physically at risk of dying. It is induced by the fear of dying, merely thinking that one is about to die. Is NDE a good thing? Biomedical researchers, neuroscientists, and psychologists have adequately explained the occurrence of NDE. There is no need for a mystical explanation. Nonetheless, the writer is happy that NDE exists. It suggests that our final experience in life, our death, can be a very peaceful and beautiful moment. Questions and answers. Okay, so we went to this. We found this. Why near-death experiences are different. See, there's a difference between near-death. Okay, you're near-death. You're not dead yet. Okay, but it's leading up to your death, and actual death, and going into the afterlife. All your functions shut down, etc. And then the doctors putting on your death certificate, verifying what time you died, and then it goes on your death certificate, etc. Okay, and you said, it's stated, right, there and then you are, if you come back, you are clinically dead. Okay, you are dead. Everything stopped to function. But death is usually when everything stops to function and eventually rigor mortis sets in. Is it not? Yeah. Skeptics argue that if near-death experiences, NDEs, were correct descriptions of actual afterlife experiences, these descriptions would corroborate with each other, no matter what the background of the experiencer, as if scientists would expect aliens visiting a random location around our planet to return with corroborating descriptions of the experiences. Therefore, the skeptics argue because NDE descriptions do not corroborate with each other, NDEs are not actual afterlife experiences. But if NDE descriptions were identical all around the world, it would make more appealing the notion of NDEs being nothing but human brains experiencing the same dying brain hallucination. It would be suggested that NDEs are hardwired experiences which occur when the brain is dying. But because they are different, this shows NDEs are not hardwired experiences, but rather dynamic experiences like life in general. NDEs are very similar to lucid dreaming or astral travelling, out-of-body experiences, right? An experience of virtual reality where all things are mentally possible. And just as one person's dream is different from another, so do differences between NDEs correspond with reality. NDEs are very private, personal experiences, as private as a person's clothes, hair colour, language, size, etc. What a person experiences subjectively in an NDE is attributable to many factors: the NDErs, or the experiencer, psychology, personal biases, background, etc., not just culture. One of the truths of the NDE is how each person integrates the NDE into their own pre-existing belief system. So if you're a Judaic, of the Judaic faith, Judaism, Christian, or Islam, or Hare Krishna, whatever, okay? Everyone is unique, and everyone is experiencing the world in a way that is absolutely unique to anyone else in the universe. The same is true for NDEs and those who experience them. Reality exists in the mind of the beholder. In ordinary life, we create our own reality from the actions we take and the thoughts we think inwardly. NDEs apparently are no different. The differences of NDEs defined. The writer classifies NDEs according to the general category as positive or negative. Their opinion is that people who are primarily motivated by positive influences, such as love, joy and peace, generally have positive NDEs. People who are primarily motivated by negative influences, such as hatred, anger and fear, generally have negative NDEs. There are many exceptions to this, but the writer was confident that such a categorization is sufficient. Positive NDEs have similar aspects. A typical example involves an out-of-body experience, or OBE, followed by travelling through a tunnel towards a very bright light. Nancy Danison expected this probably because of her religious background or whatever, but it didn't happen. Okay? Going through a tunnel and all this sort of stuff, whatever she said in that article, right? Okay, she saw things differently. Okay, so it's followed by travelling through a tunnel toward very bright light. At the end of the tunnel, deceased loved ones or beings of light often appear. Sometimes one particular being of light is identified either as God, Jesus, or other religious figures, an angel, or even their own higher self. This being induces them into a life review in which their entire life can be instantaneously observed. Afterward, the experiencer reaches a boundary of some kind which they cannot cross. Here they may be given a choice of returning to physical existence or progressing into the afterlife. They are often told, it is not yet your time to die, or your mission is not yet completed. Yes, we knew a very nice lady when we were younger, years and years and years ago, and she said that she died. She's on the bed or whatever in the hospital, and she travelled to the light or whatever, to heaven, and she saw Christ coming towards her. Right, so she's really happy, and he says, go back, it's not your time to die. So she came back. She died, I don't know, she said 3 minutes or 3 hours or something like that. It's quite a while. I think it might have been 3 hours. Yeah, and that's what she saw. That's what she experienced. She actually saw Christ. And told her to go back. Negative experiences also have features that are similar. These kind of experiences often involve people finding themselves in some hellish condition, sometimes corresponding to an object of interest, such as a physical addiction, a sexual obsession, a person still living, or some negative influence. Negative experiences are often rescued by a higher spiritual being of light, sometimes by a loved one, or sometimes by a religious figure. Once rescued, they are shown their entire life in a review. They are then given the same choice as those who have positive experiences, to either stay or return. Many negative experiences often end up transforming into positive ones, which strongly suggest these negative states of consciousness are temporary and not permanent. Whether the experiencer is an atheist or a religious person, like that guy, somebody Reagan, he was an atheist and he died, or had an NDE, he's walking along a road and he met these other people that were really nice to him, until they got to a certain point, and then they turned nasty, scratched the crap out of him, and threw him into a gutter, leaving him. Right, so he cried out to Christ, and he was given a second chance. He came back, and he was in tears and all that sort of stuff in the interview, and said blah 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 blah. This is what I saw. This is what I experienced, etc. Yeah. Whether the experiencer is an atheist or a religious person, American or Chinese, a child or an adult, gay or straight, the experiences are more similar than they are different. Despite all the differences between them, it is the similar aspects that are noteworthy. These similar aspects are of great interest to researchers because they demonstrate a pattern which is repeated over and over again by different people in different cultures during different periods of history. It should be noted that it is not the reality of these experiences that is questioned by skeptics. It is the reality of them being an afterlife experience that is questioned. Using the scientific method, these experiences can be proven to be valid. In the laboratory, NDEs can be induced using right temporal lobe brain stimulation, the application of hallucinogenic drugs, or extreme gravitational forces. These laboratory experiments prove the NDE to be valid. Whether it is a valid afterlife experience is another matter altogether. Nevertheless, the similarities between them suggest a reality based in scientific experimentation. 2. Similarities of NDEs defined. The similarities among NDEs are too great to be ignored. The writer's own research has revealed the following statistics representing the similarities among 50 experiences. 56% saw God. 46% were told it's not time. 46% were told it was not their time to die. 44% were shown visions of the future. 37% met Christ. Jesus Christ, right? 0% saw a devil. As indicated above, 46% of them were told in various ways it was not their time to die. Because such a large number of them were given this message, it suggests that it has an objectivity based in reality. It is equivalent to 46% of NDErs or experiencers report being told life is but a dream. Row, row, row your boat. Life is but a dream. During the experiences, the cryptic nature of their message combined with being heard by so many experiences gives it a strong credibility as to being an objective experience. 3. People have different needs. Many differences can be found in NDE reports. For example, this website profiles a person travelling throughout the universe in the NDE. Another person taught a temple of knowledge. Another was shown the future by 13 light beings. Another was given a guided tour of the afterlife by her deceased dog. Another was shown the earth from the perspective of being in outer space. Another experiencer travelled back in time to witness the crucifixion of Christ. Another was told her suicide would result in her reincarnation. Another met her future and yet unborn son. One man was molested in hell, then rescued by Christ. One woman experienced the ecstasy of God until she could take it no more. One man experienced a God of wrath and a God of love. One woman identified the being of light as the basic pattern behind the atom and all things in the universe. One man saw the being of light changing into various personalities such as Jesus, Buddha, Krishna, Muhammad, and then a mandala of human souls. You looked that up, the mandala. Probably some sort of combined effect. Another saw the being light as her higher self. The differences go on and on. However, despite these differences, all of these experiences are generally the same in that they contain many common aspects. An interesting concept explained to one person during an NDE is how the afterlife appears to people in the way they need it to appear after death. This explains why the being of light appears as Christ to some people and as an angel or higher self to another. It also explains why people experience different things during the NDEs. People experience different things because people have different needs. These needs are met at the time of death. In this writer's opinion, these differences suggest that someone who expects to flutter about with winged cherubs, playing harps and singing hallelujah, after death is allowed to do precisely that until they realise that this is certainly not a real heaven. Others might expect to spend all their time in eternity in prayer and glorification until it is clearly demonstrated to them that this is a fantasy to be abandoned. Even those who are convinced by their religious leaders that they will be tormented in hell fire are given a hellish experience for the purpose of education. This suggests the initial phase of death experience is transitory and merely a preparatory phase where people are allowed to face their illusions in order to teach them important lessons about themselves. The basis of this concept of getting what you need is the fact that everyone does not need the same things, and so forth. People have different perspectives and perceptions. The only thing that burns in hell is the part of you that won't let go of your life, your memories or attachments. They burn them all away, but they're not punishing you. They're freeing your soul. If you're frightened of dying and you're holding on, you'll see devils tearing your life away. If you've made your peace, then the devils are really angels freeing you from the earth. Meister Eckhart. To ask whether this is literally true or not misses the point. What it does is illustrates an important fact about people's perspectives and perceptions and how several witnesses can observe the same thing but come up with different testimonies, and so forth. One religious tenet states, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Proverbs 23:7. As Jody Long, a researcher with Ndes, points out, one of the near-death experience truths is that each person integrates their near-death experience into their own pre-existing belief system, their faith, be they of Judaism, Christianity, or Islam, or some pagan religion like Hinduism, Buddhism, whatever. This important truth must be kept in the back of one's mind when reading these different accounts. One religious tenet states, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. Proverbs 23:7. This tenet is an eloquent way of stating the same thing. The world of the NDE has been described as a realm of pure mind where all things are possible. It is possible that if a person desires a mansion after death, yes, come across many Christians that say, well, I'll be rewarded, I'll get eternal life, I'll get all these, my own house, my own mansion, gold and all this stuff. They'll get it, right? Well, if a person desires food after death, they will get it. Within some NDEs, there is evidence to suggest that those who expect nothing after death will probably not be disappointed. That is until someone changes their mind into believing that life is everlasting and continuous. Because people are what they think, people must be careful about what they think, because it is quite possible they will get it in the afterlife. Because of the variations in human understanding, there is certain to be a lot of variations in human experiences. Beauty may not be the only reality existing in the eye of the beholder. Current quantum physics supports the notion that all reality is in the eye of the beholder. The NDE is no exception in that people create their own reality. When we sat in on a Christian Science meeting, we were talking with a guy before it started, and he says, according to quantum physics, that car out there, that road you see, all that sort of stuff is all an illusion, it's not real, etc., etc. And we read about that as well. Something like, when you're a child, you see this bird, you don't know what the hell a bird is, right? But it's making this noise, tweet, 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 whatever, right? And then your parents, you come up beside you and say, that's a bird, Johnny, that's a bird, and look, it's tweeting, it's singing, whatever, you know. So apparently it's all mental suggestion. So it's like your mind is like a projector. You say, yeah, because you're being told, okay, what you're seeing is a bird tweeting, singing, whatever, right? So your mind projects out this mental image of this bird. It's not actually there. It's all illusional, right? Because someone suggested it to you, all that sort of stuff. So this guy that we're talking to, he kept going on about quantum physics and nothing's real, it's all illusion, delusion, whatever, right? So he says, well, mate, if I punched you right in the nose right now, punched you in the teeth, knocked your teeth out, you'd feel it, wouldn't you? Yeah, that's reality. If you go up and punch that wall over there, you're going to break your hand, ain't you? That's reality. He goes, no, it's all illusion. Oh my gosh, this guy's on a wicked drug. Yeah, just couldn't get through to the guy. Yeah. It's just something that somebody came up with, right? Quantum physics or whatever. Yeah. Through quantum physics. The quantum realm is identical to the realm defined by the NDE, that is the mind. Quantum physics suggests one cannot truly define reality because when they do, they start setting up limitations to it, limitations that can be broken. From this concept, one can conclude that beliefs limits an open mind. The physicist Fred Alan Wolf has stated the laws of the universe may simply be the laws of our own minds. Perhaps when we try to define reality, we may not really be getting closer to its actual definition. Perhaps all we really define is our own perception of reality, what we've come to understand, right? What we perceive. Keeping an open mind about all things being possible might be as close as one can get to this concept without setting up limitations. Like the mysterious particle of light in quantum physics, when one tries to define it, one changes it. Maybe it is merely our perception of the light that is changing rather than the light itself. A case in point we found in Pastor Howard Pittman's NDE. He was first taken before a God of wrath who condemned and judged him as being unworthy. Rejected, he left the presence of God but decided at the last minute to return to ask God a question. This time he finds the God of love filled with sympathy for him. And the writer suspects the reason Howard Pittman saw a God of wrath immediately after his death was due to this simple reason. For 35 years, Howard Pittman preached a God of wrath, and as a minister, during his NDE, a God of wrath or wrath is what he expected and what he perceived. It is how he interpreted his vision of God. Others have initially felt being judged by God or a group of light beings. Usually, they realized that they were the one doing the judging, so they're judging themselves. Who's your worst enemy? Who's going to judge you? Apparently you end up judging yourself, right? In Howard Pittman's NDE, the writer suspects he was judging himself as well, and it translated into the perception of being judged by God. This perception is reality concept demonstrates what quantum physicists have been preaching for years. If this concept is true for the physical universe, it is a small step to imagine it being true for the spiritual universe as well. And some more information here. Our lives are primarily the result of our own past actions and thoughts. NDEs generally show that people are not forced to heaven, hell or anywhere. Our destiny is totally up to us. However, we are given these choices by a higher power. It may be debatable whether this constitutes a violation of our free will or constitutes a helping hand to get us up on the right path. Get us on the right path. It may be both. Perhaps we are predestined to choose our destinies, choosing for ourselves, right? Perhaps to act against the will of God is the same as acting against our own selves. The case may be made that nobody goes against their own will. Even if they could, it is just not a very smart thing to do. In many experiences, Christ appears, but he does not appear in all of them. Again, one might jump to the conclusion that if NDEs are real afterlife experiences, Christ would appear in all of them. However, there is evidence to suggest the reason Christ appears in many NDEs in Western civilization is due to the dominance of Christianity in the West. In Buddhist countries, people meet Buddha. In Hindu countries, the god of death may appear. Jews may meet the Messiah. This suggests that at death, people carry all their perspectives and religious biases with them. It also suggests the NDE is often described in context of one's own religious perspective, understanding, or faith, and so forth. So some people erroneously believe one must have a certain religious affiliation or believe in God to have a pleasant afterlife experience. However, even in this physical world, one does not have to be religious to experience love and happiness. In the same vein, to have a pleasant afterlife experience, one does not have to be religious. NDErs or experiences state it is not the religion one professes with their lips that matters. It is the spiritual condition of their inner nature that matters. People who are primarily motivated by fear, anger, hatred, and evil will generally find themselves together with like-minded people after their death. So, Bon Scott saying, I'm going on to the promised land, all my friends are going to be there too, I'm on the highway to hell. Well, if he stated that and thought like that, well, you know, he'd probably get there and they'll be partying it up, or his mates will be there. Alright, if that were true. A case in point is the NDE of Dr. George Ritchie. Ritchie saw an afterlife place where people were locked into trying to satisfy some physical desire but were unable to, thereby creating their own society of the damned. It should also be pointed out that as it is in the physical world, these hellish conditions are temporary. People who are primarily motivated by love, peace or happiness will find themselves together with like-minded people after death. The old saying holds true, birds of a feather flock together. This probably explains why families and friends tend to stick together in NDEs as well. 5. These differences correspond with physical and afterlife reality. And so forth. Okay. So, we at the Ministry of the Real Truth hope that you enjoyed this video. You can watch these videos. We'll leave the links underneath our video so you can do so. You watch the entire videos yourselves in your own time, your own leisure. If you like this particular video, please subscribe to our channel, add your comments below in the comment section, give us a like, and then go share it with all your family, friends and neighbours.